Welcome to the Barnstable School Committee meeting for April 5th, 2023. I'll start off with 1.1 district vision. The Barnstable Public Schools educates the whole child by creating a student-centered school culture that addresses students' physical, social, emotional, and academic needs by creating a safe and healthy learning environment in which students are challenged, supported, and engaged. Core values. In Barnstable Public Schools, we value commitment, collaboration, and community. Commitment. We are dedicated to the continuous learning and growth for all. Collaboration. We work together while keeping students' needs at the center of all decision-making. Community. We build strong, respectful partnerships that support student success. Now moving on to 1.2, statement by the chair. I remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast on Channel 18. I also remind any member of the public who wishes to make an audio or video recording of the open session of this meeting to first notify me as the chair, and I will then inform the public of the recording as required by the open meeting law. Moving on to 1.3, disclosure in invocation of rules of necessity. I'll turn it over to Kathy.
As a disinterested school committee member, I am invoking the rule of necessity in order that this committee can vote on the district school budget for 2022-2024. This action is a last resort, and the only reason the rule of necessity is being invoked is so that those school committee members who would otherwise be disqualified may participate. Prior to doing this, I am going to call each member to make a public disclosure of what conflicts they or their family members may have. Please note that these issues have previously been disclosed to the State Ethics Commission during the process to obtain a waiver. I would first call upon Mike Judge, as chair of the school committee, to disclose any conflict that he may have.
My name is Mike Judge. I have never worked for the Barnstable School District, but my wife is currently a teacher for the district, and she is a member of the Barnstable Teachers Association.
I would now call Andre King to state what his conflict is.
My name is Andre King. I have previously filed a disclosure statement with the town clerk indicating that my conflict is that I've previously worked as a teacher in the district and formerly was a member of the Barnstable Teachers Union. I no longer work in the district, and I presently have no affiliation with the Barnstable Teachers Union.
I would now ask Peter Good to state what his conflict is.
My name is Peter Good. I previously worked as a teacher for the district and was a member of the Barnstable Teachers Union. I am retired, no longer work in the district. My two adult daughters who live on their own with their own families presently work as teachers for the district and are both members of the Barnstable Teachers Association. I do not derive any income from my children.
Okay, we will now move on to 2.1, highlights from the BHS student field trip in February of 2023. Come on down. Come on down. Welcome. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Padma Pierre. I'm the lead French teacher at Barnstable.
Your mic's not on. You gotta hit the little button down.
Hello? All right. Okay, good. All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Fadne Pierre. I'm the lead French teacher at Barnstable High School. And we are very excited to be here to talk about our recent trip to Lyon, France. The trip was amazing. With me are three awesome students who are going to talk in more details about the trip, take a little journey, if you will. And with me also is Mireille Poupard, Madame Mimi, and we've been organizing trips for our students for the past 10 years to Quebec and to France. And so without any further ado, let me go with my students and they will start talking about the trip.
All right. My name is Daniel Aziev Shmalovsky. I was one of the kids that went on the trip. Just going over the bit of an overview. It was around 2 weeks long. We spent each of the students had their own family that they lived with for the entirety of the trip. Obviously, the last 2 days were spent in Paris. We were walking around. We were in a hotel room, so we were all together. But for the first, basically 3/4 of the trip, we were living all with each of our own families. After school, we would always do individually with our own families, do our own activities. We would not only just go to school, but most of the time we would end up just actually going to separate towns, different like excursions. One of the towns was like Perouge, was like it used to be a fortress, and we got to visit that. We got to also go to Switzerland, and then we got to go to Geneva. It was really cool. We visited the UN. Over the time of the whole thing, it was very cool to experience the culture of France. You know, it's something you don't really see in the classroom, like reading books and just going over like the grammar. You don't really get to experience like hearing, you know, true native French. You don't get to learn like phrases or like kind of some dialect that like native French speakers have. And it was really cool to have that firsthand experience. You know, you learn from your own host student. They'll teach you stuff. You got to do whatever. You see what life is like for people, you know, not in America. It's different. Family culture is different. School life is different. It was really great. And going over like language specifically is also just generally really good learning opportunity. You know, again, we went over like cool phrases that we didn't know, but also just like you got to almost be used to their accent. And at the beginning, it was really kind of awkward almost with the families. You know, it's new people and you have to live with them for the next 10 days. And, you know, half the time you don't even know what they're saying.
How is this going to work?
Yeah, you don't know what they're
That
saying.
panic.
You're like saying hi. And after the plane trip, you're like, I'm really tired. So I really wanted to go to bed. Obviously, you want to do as much as you can with them. It's a very unique experience. But after like halfway through the trip, you do get around to, you know, hanging around with them. You get a bit more used to understanding their accent, everything. So it's easier to speak with them. And it's just really cool to like, you know, talk about their life. You know, you learn about these people. They're very nice, very cool. They will be also visiting in November. They'll be coming here. Cool. At least that's what's planned. That's what I know. So,
Yeah.
You know, some of us will be hosting. You know, the seniors, they'll be gone. But obviously the kids who are sticking with French, they'll be hosting. And we'll be seeing familiar faces that are coming here.
Oh, cool.
And they'll just basically do the same thing. Cool. And I'll pass it on to Keanu, who's going to go over
Thank
the
you.
school life.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Kiana Forts, and I'm gonna be talking about like the school and what it felt like being in it. And like the school would go from 8 to 5, so the days were much longer.
Oh.
But they did have like longer breaks in between and much longer lunches. The lunches were like either like 1 hour, 2 hours, or even like up to 4 hours.
Can I ask you a question? Could you go
Yes.
home, or did you have to stay on campus during
You
that?
could go home if you lived
So you-
close enough.
okay.
Or there was like a lot of public transportation. So it was either like if your buses were around, you can go home and then come back,
Okay.
or just walk. But my host person, she lived pretty far, so we always had to take the bus. So we stayed.
Okay.
And the classes, they did more like of lecture notes, whereas here, like we do like online, like using our computer. I rarely saw anyone using their computer on their phone. Everyone was more like into the conversation. They answered most of the questions that the teacher was asking, whereas like here in Barnstable, like students are like, no, I'm just not gonna answer, whatever, forget it. And then also like I got the chance to like speak in French. Teachers would ask me like introduce myself. All the students were like, oh my gosh, there's an American student in the class. I would always like try to
Like
sit
a
in the back
celebrity.
corner, making sure that I didn't like
You're
get
like a
called.
celebrity. I'll give autographs.
Yeah, it felt really cool to be in that position. And like I even had to like read like a whole like paragraph on the social issues in French, which was also like difficult, but like also really cool. And I also had to teach one of the English classes.
Really?
In English, teaching the students. So that made me like have to like think about English, which I usually don't, which was
Right.
actually kind of hard. And where they're like, since you have so like you spend most of your day at school, the kids like they felt like they would like hang out like a lot more. I felt like every time they go to school, they use that time to like talk to friends, hang out with friends, especially since they had those long breaks. Even in those long breaks, I'd go to like the boulangerie right across the street, sit there for a good 2 hours, and then come back to school. Like they were allowed to do that, whereas here, like we always have to stay in the school. We have hour classes, like 6-minute breaks in between. So it was really cool, like having to experience that, having time to like sit down and relax. So that was cool. And like the school lunches, like I felt like they were a lot better, especially since we had like longer lunches. But like I felt more filled, like whereas here, yeah, the lunches, like I mean they're pretty big, but like you have a short time, so you don't really have time. Yeah.
So
And
can
then-
I ask you another
yeah.
question? Just 'cause I'm curious. It's just curiosity. And I don't mean to mess you up, but I'm just kind of curious. So, like, do you get school lunches, or do you can you get the lunch at school, or do you have to go other places? Like, do they have a cafeteria where you can eat at school?
Yeah,
or?
there is a cafeteria. A lot, almost every single seat in the cafeteria is filled with students.
Okay.
But some people can just go home, go
Right.
across the street, get something. And you can even bring your own lunch, but most of the students just paid for their lunch and just ate there because this food was pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Nicole D'Souza, and I'm going to be talking about Paris because that is where we spent the last 2 days of our trip. And everything about Paris was incredible, to say the least.
As much as the movies say.
Oh, as much as the movies say. Growing up, you think maybe they're dramatizing it, for effect. But after being there and experiencing the city, I can say it was not dramatized at all. The architecture is very interesting. It's nothing that you can see around here. It's more Gothic architecture, as you can even see a little bit in the picture that is currently being projected. And everything was truly amazing, from the Eiffel Tower to the Notre Dame to all of the art museums. It is just a very surreal experience being there. And since we weren't with our host students, we were kind of really forced to use what we know with our French, and it was a big challenge, but it was also really fun to see how we could figure out what to say, what we needed, which was very.
When you have no choice, you got to do it. So you know what?
choice, you
There's no
gotta
crutch
figure it
there.
out.
You got to,
Yeah.
let's put our heads together and
Yeah.
figure this out. Yep.
That's pretty much how it was. And I think it's clear that Paris is obviously one of the biggest fashion and art capitals of the world, arguably. And we actually ended up walking through a Paris Fashion Week event while we were there, which for me personally was a big deal because I want to go into fashion in the future. And the art museums are nothing like you can ever see
Really?
here. Yeah. The Louvre is a lot bigger than I think any of us were anticipating. It's basically like a little maze trying to figure out where all of the paintings are. And if you don't know how to read the map, you end up
You
hitting a
learn French
couple
quick,
dead
right?
ends. Yeah. But other than that, the Louvre is where I saw one of my favorite paintings, which is Marat Assassinated. It is a very big, it is a very important piece in French history, which was incredible to see. But I honestly loved the Musée d'Orsay, which is another art museum we went to more, because it's a little bit easier to navigate, but also we were able to see other very iconic French art pieces, and we saw a lot of Van Gogh and Monet pieces there as well.
Cool.
But yeah, Paris was just absolutely incredible.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wow, you three are great spokespersons.
Yeah, you know what? Awesome job. You know
I'll
what?
tell you.
I
Fadner and Mimi, I'd
Yeah,
take
you
these
know what?
guys
If-
anywhere.
I think you've set the standard. We approved this trips, the international trips, but and I think we probably all like hearing about it, because just watching your faces, sitting up here watching your faces with the smiles and the excitement, it's it's a no-brainer for us, you know what I mean? So thank you for taking your night to come back and talk to us and make us excited that when I want to go to Paris, my wife will be excited. You've now sold me. But
fabulous.
thank you for coming, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and thank you. And this is what we get to witness and
Yeah,
observe. And
that's
also,
cool.
as educator, Fanner and I, we get to keep those memories in
Yep.
our heart. And when we see our students years later, it's the first thing they talk to us about is the incredible life-changing experience they've had because this place, this school,
Right.
this public place allowed them to do that. And we just want to tell you, we're so grateful. But right off the press is our magazine, and one of our traveler is Cecilia Brisebois, who wrote a beautiful article of her trip to France. So I thought I would bring you a copy.
Thank you.
For
Thank
you
you
to
very
love.
much.
She
And
actually-
thank you to you two and all of, not just you two, but I know there's a lot of trips that go on and a lot of people have to go, like, you have to give up your time to go to France, and I understand that it's exciting, but you've gone multiple times, probably done the same thing over and over, but it's with a new group of kids, so that excitement is different, but the same. But thank you for taking your time to go, and not just you, but all of the folks that go on these trips to give our kids these experiences that will be hopefully life-changing and an excellent trip. So thank you. Thank you to
Our
you
pleasure,
too.
and thank you for letting us
for
do
definitely
this.
putting your time into it too.
Okay.
As Madam Mimi is passing out I just want to share some pictures with you guys. This is outside of the Louvre.
Yep.
With the group. This is after a new game we learned how to play pétanque. And we actually got famous. We were in the local newspaper for coming to the small town to play pétanque with the locals. This is our own Kiana at the Musée d'Orsay, I think. This is amazing cathedral in Lyon, France. This is one of our students, Thomas and Bridget. This is at Perouge, again, Gothic towns that have been around for forever, it seems like. This is our very own Nikki at the front of one of her favorite paintings, and in front of the Arc de Triomphe, our students. Of course, Paris, it wouldn't be Paris without a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
So again, thank you again for your time, and these kids are amazing. They are very brave for going on this trip. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming and spending some time with us and telling us about it. We are now going to move on to 3.1, the Student Envoy Report. Hi, welcome.
Hi, what a great presentation by the French students. And, I've been able to hear a lot of the student perspectives about that trip, and it is just amazing as it sounds. And so, super exciting stuff. Let's hope it continues in further years. As for Barnstable High School, Student Council will be hosting a blood drive tomorrow, and students who are 16 and older can participate. I'm super excited. I'm trying to go for the Gallon Club. It's like 8 donations. Almost there. First one. Anyway, NHS in celebration collected 350 pairs of shoes for their shoe drive, got sneakers, and will host a donation event at both Star Market and Shaw's, accepting both cash and shoes from 11 to 3 on Saturday. The NHS will also be having their induction ceremony next Thursday, the 13th in the PAC, to welcome new members to the organization. And finally, Fashion Club will be hosting their annual fashion show on April 28th in the Performing Arts Center at 7 p.m. Tickets can be purchased online or at the door, and I'm excited to see the new designs.
First of all, we'd like to congratulate Lucy to Harvard.
Oh, congratulations.
Sorry, I just had to say it. We're so excited to announce prom tickets are available till April 14th. BHS Senior Assassin is up and going for $20 per team, and we're crying 2-person teams. I think we're going to be a team, guys. And that's due April 6th. Boys lacrosse is off to a great start. They won their first game yesterday against Plymouth North, and yeah. Spring sports are definitely off to a great start. So thank you, guys.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
That's
you
it
guys
for
are
us.
all set?
Yep, have a good night.
Only a couple more meetings with you guys, and then you'll be all done. Thank you for coming. We're moving on to public comment, 3.2 public comment. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and 30 minutes total. There will be no debate or action taken on public comment items. The committee will take items under advisement, or the individual will request an item be placed on a future agenda. The chair will also allow public comment at his discretion during the meeting. Having said that, I now open up public comment. Seeing nobody, I now close public comment. We will now move on to 3.3, school committee comments and subcommittee liaison reports. So I'll open that up. Anybody?
Just one couple of quick things here. I just want to congratulate all those involved in the production of Mary Poppins last month. From the cast of the backstage to the musicians, directors, choreographers, volunteers, it was great to hear all those songs from my childhood, and then watching my 2-year-old grandson also enjoying the same music. And our highlight was the Step in Time dance, for sure. And it was well done by all. And speaking of volunteers, I would just like to acknowledge our own school committee member, Mike Judge, who gave up an incredible amount of time in the month of March volunteering at the transfer station's redeemable shed in order to raise money for this year's prom celebration. I know there were other volunteers who gave up their time from their busy lives, but I believe Mike was there pretty much all 31 days in the month of March, and I'm not sure this fundraiser would even happen without the dedication of the Judge family, so my hat's off to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Andre, do you have a video? Do you have any pictures or no?
I do.
Okay, can we do that at the, did you have anything else to talk about? 'Cause
No,
we'll
I
come
don't.
back to that at the end.
We can come
Okay.
back to that, it's fine.
And we'll do that last like we did before. Okay. Kathy?
Policy Subcommittee continues to work on Section J. The next meeting is Friday, April 14th at 1 o'clock via Zoom. Just when we think we're getting to the end, it's the subcommittee that may never end. I'm sure my committee members all received the policy newsletter update, which is 7 pages. MASC maintains a policy reference manual that has a lot of the school district will adopt or model their policies after the MASC recommended policies. They are undergoing a comprehensive review, and when I got that letter in the mail, I couldn't believe that we will now go back to Section A, take a look at all the additions, deletions, revisions, and I don't know, may never end. So that
I
Peter's
missed
face
one
says it all.
meeting, and that happens. Wow.
No, this happened after the meeting. I
Peter's-
sent
Peter's
it right
face
to
says it
Sarah.
all.
We all got that letter in the mail.
Yep.
I'm probably the only one that read it.
No, I read it.
Okay. Business Pathways program, the Business Connections Breakfast. I just can't speak highly enough of the faculty who spearhead this Business Pathways Connections Breakfast or the Business Pathways academic program. Students put it on 100%. I attended last year. I thought it was great last year. It was even better this year. Students are exceptional, very professional. They put many of us to shame with their polished professional demeanor. They spoke about what they're learning. They spoke about what they've gained from all the programs and the DECA competitions and the NIFTY. The primary purpose of this was to engage community leaders, business community leaders, so that they could expand their internship program. Mr. Cotton from Cotton Real Estate spoke about how wonderful his intern was, and he was quite good when he described his initial reaction and what the finished result was. He was more impressed with them than you could imagine. The mentorship program, at the discussions where I was sitting, all the community people were ready to jump on board. So that was a good outcome, and it was just wonderful to see them in action. So again, I think, I can't even start to say the names because I'll leave somebody out, but the whole core group of faculty and the department head, Andrew Vince, they're just doing amazing things with these students.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. So now I have a couple things. First of all, I'll start off with this one just because I have it up on my phone. So kind of a public announcement. I want to try to get this out to as many people in the community. If people could help, I know if you have Facebook, I know they have a thing on Facebook. I'm actually going to read it from the police department just so I don't make mistakes. But the public safety training announcement, a local police and fire department training at Barnstable High School this Friday. On Friday, April 7th, the Barnstable Police, Hyannis Fire, Com Fire, Catuit Fire, Barnstable Fire, and West Barnstable Fire will be conducting a joint training at the Barnstable High School. This large-scale joint training is critical for our local public safety agencies to keep our community safe. The school will be closed to the public between the hours of 7 and 4:30 during the training. There will be a large police and fire presence at BHS during these hours. There will be there may be radio communications on various public safety radio channels transmitted during the training. Announcement identifying these transmissions as related to training will be made. Having been a retired firefighter, everywhere we go, people tend to see us. We don't hide very well. So I just want people to realize that kids don't have school this Friday, and there will be a lot of police and fire at our high school. It's training only, but like I said, when you tend to get a fire truck or a police car, you get a bunch of them at a high school, people are gonna, I could see where it would look, but kids are off and there's gonna be no staff there. It's just gonna be training for the police and fire. So if you could help me get that out to people in the community, because the more people that know, the less phone calls that the police, fire, and schools will be getting. So if you could just help me out with that, I would really appreciate it. The other thing I have is senior parents. So we got an email. Let me just scroll through our emails. I think we got an email yesterday from the school talking about all of the things that are going on. It's kind of that if your oldest is a senior or your firstborn is a senior, this is the email that kind of makes it all feel real. So it was titled, I believe, Important Senior Dates. So you're going to want to go on that. Every student got it, senior student got it, and every senior parent got it. So whether it's in your junk mail and stuff, but it talks about all of the dates from here until the end till graduation. So take a look at it. It has stuff for the kids as far as like Lucy said or Sherry said about buying prom tickets. It has graduation times. It has, I've been asked questions about how many tickets you get on the lawn. It says it literally is a very extensive email about all of the dates and all of the stuff that we as parents and kids want to know about. So I would advise you to look in your email. I think it was yesterday or the day before we got it. I think it was this week we got it, or maybe the end of last week. I don't remember. But look in your emails and look for something from Barnstable High School, and it says important dates. So that's about all I have. Yeah, Andre, I'll turn it over to you for your part.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Just looking at the things that are going on in the district on a day-to-day basis, weekly and monthly basis. So to start us off, this is the BWB Spaghetti Supper that took place recently, in which members of the PTA volunteered. And you can see that the students in the third grade were servers, preparing for distinguished careers in the hospitality industry, some of them, and they did an incredible job. So that was the BWB Spaghetti Supper. This is the Gateway program. Operating at Hyannis West Elementary. We're looking at Miss Tabor's second graders, and they are working, designing inventions using their creative thinking skills. The Gateway program at Hyannis West Elementary. Our students at BIS, our band members, they took part in a field trip supporting the Providence Bruins on March 12th. Not only did they go to the game, but the students cheered on the team. Next slide, please. And they performed music during the intermissions. So we know the Bruins are going into the playoffs, the Boston Bruins, but the Providence Bruins needed a little bit of extra support, a little extra motivation. That was provided via the BIS band members. So a good field trip and getting involved. The BHS Green Club, in conjunction with the Barnstable Marine and Environmental Affairs Division, partnered to clean up Dowse's Beach. This was the first. It's good to see Mr. Shea there, who is very active in a number of capacities. It's good to see Jeremy there. This was the first, hopefully, of many collaborations between the Green Club and the Marine Environmental Affairs Division. And there was a considerable amount of litter collected. Next slide, please. You can see the different. Mike, I visited you. I visited you on one day. One day of your time, and I would see you on the weekends.
Those all go in.
Yes, you can most certainly. So your time at the transfer station. So the BHS Green Club, again in conjunction with the Barnstable Marine and Environmental Affairs Division. The Barnstable High School Poetry Slam took place recently. We had 104 students total participating in the Poetry Slam. The students shared their poems, their passions, their insights. This is an annual event. We want to tip our hat to those members of the English department that make it happen. And of course, this event was supported by the student body at the high school as well. 104 members participating in the Poetry Slam. Continuing, we've talked about Flex Friday. That's Coach Jacola there. He is with, that's Carter Duffley, who was the lifter. There's a lifter of the week. And so this particular week, it was Carter Duffley. Carter's in 8th grade. So, you know, we've talked about this, but I need to bring it up again because we're seeing participation across the board. Students, we have a robust youth development league with Silver Bullets and with the Flag Football League here in Barnstable that's growing, and we have high participation from our student athletes. And so we have students at the high school. Also, some of the intermediate school students are able to participate and take advantage. And I bring this up, Mo, because it's our student athletes. Next slide. It's the participation across the board that's very encouraging. This is Jeff Lovell, who just recently was offered a scholarship from Westfield State University based on his commitment, based on his dedication, based on what he's doing in the classroom. We're seeing it carrying over, going outside of the school. Our student athletes are they're participating in initiatives like Flex Friday, but then they're also going on a number of college visits. Mo, next slide. This is Chevy Shakespeare. I don't want to mispronounce Chevenet. Maybe the Chevy, I apologize in advance. But this is Chevy Shakespeare, his official visit at Boston College. And I just want to emphasize that our student athletes are visiting a number of colleges, both in the New England region and beyond. In terms of making that next step after Barnstable High School and on to college. And next slide, please. So what we're seeing happen is this is the Carver football program, and they've borrowed now Flex Friday, which they've incorporated with their student athletes, and they wanted to give a shout out to Coach Jacola. And so this program, other schools adopting it. We're seeing the participation, the enthusiasm, and our student athletes really showing what they can accomplish. Peter, on to your point, I was fortunate. I went to Mary Poppins opening night. For all of those that got a chance, I cannot say how impressed I was with the production overall. Peter, you alluded to it. Our students, the band, the special effects, the community participation. It was an outstanding performance across the board. And, you know, Miss Barth, Mary Barth, who is the drama club coach, director, whatever the title is, we attended school together, graduated together. You know, and I remember, you know, what the drama program was under the leadership of John Sullivan and also Ed O'Toole. And she is certainly carrying on that tradition. They were tremendous. Just one more slide from Mary Poppins. It was out of this world. And we're really seeing, in terms of the field trip, what our students are capable of, and it's flat out tremendous.
Thank you very much, Andre. I look forward to that. As I always say, what's your email address for people to send you pitches? I told you, you're going to get a really flooded, which is great. It just shows all the great things that are happening in our schools. And like, everybody always hears the bad things, but you're sharing the good things, and there is a ton of good things. So keep up the good work and keep sharing. Awesome.
We'll do, and we just want to highlight that hard work that's taking place
on all
by
levels
so many on a day-to-day basis.
Yep. The unsung heroes. So thank you very much. I now will go on to 3.4, the superintendent's report. Welcome.
Thank you. There's going to be a bit of a theme, I think, between me and Kristen as well, given there are so many wonderful things happening with our students. I do want to bring awareness to April being Autism Awareness Month, Arab American Heritage Month, Genocide Awareness Month, and National Poetry Month. The National Poetry Month piece manifesting with that amazing poetry slam that they had at the high school. Kristen will be talking a little bit more about that. I want to give some kudos to our Food Services Director, Dave Badeau, our FCEC Coordinator, Maura Bunshu, who have been working with Mary Beth Shea, Executive Director for SEL and Student Services, to respond to a significant need in our community, and that is related to food insecurity. We are pleased to announce the opening of the Barnstable Red Hawks Food Pantry. They are targeting a date of May 1st. They have secured a space near the Food Services office at Barnstable High School to act as a storage and prep area for products to support the program. The intention is to serve our families within the district that have food insecurities. The plan is to pre-shop weekly for families from items we have at the food pantry and have them pick up at a designated day and time at the high school. Distribution will all take place outside of the building. Participants will not have access to the inside of the building, kind of picking up on some of the things that we learned during the pandemic, which would be, kind of the contactless drop-offs. They are looking for volunteers, and people can sign up on the volunteer tracker page of our website. There is a training coming up on April 12th. And some of our students who work with our food services department as part of their vocational education will also be participating in having the pantry up and running. This has been initiated with some funding from Stop and Shop, and they will be making materials for the pantry accessible in all 3 languages. I mentioned at the last update that we were running our suicide prevention program at the high school through the Signs of Suicide curriculum and screening. The League of Women Voters held a really impactful virtual mental health and suicide prevention forum last week that I attended. It had panelists, including Senator Sear, local clinicians, families, and with great impact, students in our region who've been impacted by suicide, including a representative from Barnstable High School. One thing that was noted that we did share with our guidance department within the last week, as a result of a relationship we've been fostering with Dr. Kim Mead Walters, we will be joining Falmouth in the development of a Hope Squad at Barnstable High School. Hope Squad is a peer-to-peer led suicide prevention program that will augment our current practice of screening through signs of suicide. There is considerable research demonstrating the effectiveness of such peer-to-peer programs. Trainings will be forthcoming for students who participate and for their adult advisors. Students get nominated by their classmates as trustworthy peers, and the model is based on education, training, and peer intervention. While there are other similar programs of this sort, I am personally excited that this specific program is gaining traction regionally, and we can look forward to some opportunities to collaborate beyond Barnstable. I want to recognize that we had over 90 students attend the Future Educators Conference on March 16th. It was really amazing and well done work by Vanessa Pye, Megan Fligg, and Erin Eastman, who coordinated it. These 90 students are part of the pathway, educator pathway, or they're just interested in an education career. They attended a 3-hour virtual workshop with Bridgewater State, with motivating speakers, including the Massachusetts Teacher of the Year, who is from Martha's Vineyard. We held a special catered lunch for our students, which I think they enjoyed. It was a little off the beaten path for them to have something catered and a little more time to enjoy it. And I personally enjoyed my conversations with students during the lunch. We had a panel presentation with BPS faculty and staff afterwards to make it more tangible in terms of our educators and how our educators ended up in the paths that they chose. And they included teachers, support staff, and administrators from High West, Barnstable United Elementary School, and BHS. It's really exciting to see the growth of this pathway, and I look forward to continuing to support it. Students from the Barnstable Youth Commission, the Barnstable High School Green Club, and Sturgis East Environmental Club collaborated to bring a really impactful educational opportunity to our region related to PFAS. The PFAS and Your Community presentation was held on Saturday, March 25th to bring awareness to these forever chemicals and efforts in legislation to eliminate them from products, which is occurring in some states, including Maine, and has been a conversation in Massachusetts. Lead researcher Dr. Laurel Shader also shared about the opportunity for Hyannis residents who resided there from 2006 to 2016 to participate in a specially selected CDC study to test for the presence of PFAS among the population, and it's not too late to participate. I'm really proud of our students, and this is another example of them stepping up and having an impressive and positive impact in our region. I, too, attended the business breakfast and echo many of Kathy's comments. I do want to note that Vice Chair Kathy Bent also presented at the business breakfast and really shared, I think, something very important and an opportunity that I think we're uniquely poised to take advantage of, and that is our relationship with 4Cs and really the articulation agreements that the business pathway and other pathways have with this resource in our community. So wanted to add that as another note in terms of, I think, what makes Barnstable special. And then lastly, Ms. Harmon, Mr. Dwelly, and I submitted our Student Opportunity Act amendment for the current fiscal year to account for additional Chapter 70 funding we received in FY23. We accounted for spending according to the district's plan established in FY21, which focused on 2 evidence-based programs: inclusion and co-teaching for English learners and special education students in grades K through 5, and then a second evidence-based program of building capacity in social emotional learning and mental health services district-wide. All of this information will ultimately be publicly available on the Department of Education's webpage. Our previous amendment and previous plan has been published there for some time. Since our funding increased more than we had expected when the district wrote the original plan, we also accounted for additional expenditures beyond these 2 programs. Our next steps will be to write a new plan in FY24 related to the current budget, and stakeholder engagement through all of this is expected. More information to come, and I believe the process will likely be in the fall.
Excellent, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, okay, we'll move on to 3.5, Assistant Superintendent's Report. Kristen.
Thank you. So a couple items are just a few more details of a few that were mentioned by our committee and by our student envoys, but save the date for the Barnstable High School Art and Fashion Show. They're both scheduled for Friday, April 28th. The art show opens at 4:30 and will be held in the BHS Library and the Cobb Astro Park, where student work from all areas and levels of art classes will be on display. This will be followed immediately by the Barnstable High School Fashion Show, and that starts at 7 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center. And the Cobb Fund has provided some supportive funding for both of these events. As mentioned previously, the district will be running a Math Acceleration Academy over April vacation. I had shared the results or the engagement from our February vacation academy. Right now, or as of this writing, we have 53 students in grades 6 through 8 registered for the session to be held at BIS. There are 6 teachers, a nurse, and 2 paraprofessional staff who will be providing engaging support or engaging instruction and math-focused activities for that week. The program runs April 18th to the 21st. We do the 17th, which is the Monday. We do not hold the session because of the holiday. And we also have 68 students in grades 3 through 5 who've registered for the Acceleration Academy program running at BUES. For that program, we have 9 teachers and a nurse supporting the program. Students will be receiving breakfast and lunch. Transportation is also provided to students as well. This is all as a result of a grant fund award to the district through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And I would be remiss not to mention Kelly Lawrence and Wendy Johnson, who are the coordinators of the 2 programs. There is a lot of planning that goes into kicking these off. As many of you have mentioned, there's been a few events that have taken place over the past few weeks. On March 23rd, I had the pleasure of attending the a presentation by Rob Surratt to the, I had the pleasure of sitting next to Mike Judge.
That was cool.
Through the generosity of the Cobb Fund, this was, Barnstable United submitted this proposal for all 4th and 5th grade students to attend this event. So while Rob Surratt wowed the audience with his skills as a speed artist, when you really consider the messages shared throughout the performance, it's clear that he's so much more than that. His work celebrates diversity, provides inspiration, and promotes kindness and giving. So he does that through his artwork, through his speaking, and through slides and recordings that he has. It was very dynamic, and I think the kids really enjoyed it. On this past Monday, on the 3rd, Barnstable High School held their Poetry Out Loud event. I had the opportunity to hear the creations of one group of students, C Block. One in particular that just really, it was really powerful. It was titled The American Dream. So one of the students, and I don't know who it was, I would love to be able to say who presented it, but it was just a very compelling and powerful poem. And I can't say enough, I applaud the bravery of these students to stand up in front of their peers and share their original works. It is absolutely amazing to me that they can do that. And last evening, I attended a Title I family event at Barnstable Community Innovation School. It was called Stories from the Neighborhood, performed by author and storyteller Nora Dooley. Ms. Dooley's books are well-known stories such as Everybody Cooks Rice, Everybody Serves Soup, and Everybody Brings Noodles. So if you weren't hungry before, maybe you are now. Each of which convey the simple theme of respect and diversity among us. In addition to participating in Nora's highly interactive storytelling, she had coached the students in advance of one of her stories she was telling with some sound effects. The kids did it fantastically at all the right times, but they also took the stage to share their own stories. All in attendance received a personally signed copy of one of Nora's published books. This event was the culminating event of a storyteller in residence that was at BCIS, funded through a Mass Cultural Council grant. As a storyteller in residence, Ms. Dooley visited classrooms and taught 2nd and 3rd grade students the art of storytelling. Students learned how to embrace their voice, share their own stories, both orally and in writing, and most importantly, students discovered how their voice is part of the greater communal voice. Barnstable High School has recently submitted an application to the Barr Foundation's Learn, Dream, and Plan request for proposals. The opportunity is a year-long grant that includes monetary and strategic support focused on reimagining the high school experience for students. As the district moves forward with articulating a pre-K-12 vision of the graduate, the high school team sees this grant as an opportunity to step back, further engage stakeholders, and gather more information to inform the development of a strategic plan to align the high school policies and practices to the vision of the graduate. The Barr Foundation has invited the high school team to an interview occurring Thursday, April 6th. So they've made it through the first round. The selection committee will move forward applications to the Barr Foundation's board for final grant determinations to be made June 2023. If awarded, the grant support will run from July 2023 to July 2024. And so the Barr Foundation should sound familiar. That was the foundation that provided a lot of the funding to the intermediate school. And so that was, again, the same structure, a planning grant, and then led to further funding for the implementation grant. I am planning to provide GLEAM grant updates each meeting. If you'll recall, growing literacy equity across Massachusetts. Today we held a kickoff meeting for our district team. The district team is made up of central office members, directors, teaching and learning, EL, English learners, special education, all of our K-5 principals, the reading specialists from each of the schools, and our special education coordinator from BUES. So each school is, each of our elementary schools and Barnstable United is well represented in this group. The school representatives on this team will be establishing and leading group-level teams in this work. And at the kickoff meeting, the group was introduced to our team of consultants, where we were also asked to share our hopes and fears of the work ahead, and provided the next steps for the work, which includes classroom visits. So the consultants will, as part of their strategic or needs assessment, their systems analysis, they'll be conducting with us classroom visits, focus groups, and stakeholder surveys. There was a high level of engagement and enthusiasm evident at the kickoff meeting, which was also mentioned by the presenters, and so we're all really excited as to really dig into the work. We do have a weekly meeting with our consultants as well, so there is a lot of support that's connected with this grant. I'm getting close. Career fairs. So the hiring season is upon us. As we continue to prioritize the diversification of our candidate pool, we've begun to engage in local career fairs. On March 18th, Dylan Gerald and I participated in an in-person career fair sponsored by the Massachusetts Partnership for Diversity in Education. The event was held in Cambridge and included a panel discussion regarding recruitment and retention of educators of color. It was a great event. There were 47 districts, 2 Cape districts, 47 districts at the event. And although the organizers did share that it wasn't as well as attended as in past years, the opportunity to participate is something that I hope we'll continue to do moving forward. Very well organized and really informative. Coming up on April 12th, the district will be participating in a virtual career fair that's being organized by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. This is a statewide education-focused virtual job fair to help schools and districts fill open positions of all varieties. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has organized the event to bring together skilled employees from a range of backgrounds and experiences. Our Human Resources Department and Central Office staff will be participating in this career fair, and we have a training tomorrow because of the virtual nature. I guess there are some things we need to learn how to do. And then finally, on May 3rd, Bridgewater State University is holding an in-person career fair. More information will be forthcoming on that, but we will have district staff participating in that as well. And then finally, as our 21st Century After-School program at Hyannis West, so as a grant-funded program, funded through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. As part of that, they come out on occasion to conduct site visits. So as we've received our report card of sorts following that site visit, this is really helpful as we're looking to extend the grant. We're coming to the end of the life of the grant. So some of the strengths that were identified, as I'm sure is no surprise to any of you, that it was a warm and welcoming climate, a lot of positive communication, praise to the teachers and their interactions with students, the opportunities afforded students to work together, the community partnerships that have been established that the weekly lessons build upon, the high level of activity with a STEM focus, and I could go on. But just a few opportunities that they identified is tapping into students' interest for movement, so how to incorporate more movement into the afternoon program, and then identifying that a word wall and specific terms would be useful within our classroom setting as well. But really lots of positive feedback from the department rep that came for that site visit. And that's it.
Excellent. Anything else? You're all set. Any questions? Seeing none, we will now move on to old business 4.1, approve new policy JIC student discipline. Kathy?
This is a second read of policy JIC, and there was no feedback from the March 15th meeting. So I would move to approve policy JIC, student discipline, as presented in tonight's materials.
I'll second.
Having a motion seconded and voice vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. 4.2, revise and rename policy AC, non-discrimination and harassment to non-discrimination, including harassment and retaliation. Kathy?
Again, this is a second read. There was no feedback, so I would move to revise and rename policy AC, non-discrimination and harassment, to non-discrimination, including harassment and retaliation, as presented in tonight's materials.
I'll second that.
Having a motion seconded, this is a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Now moving on to new business. 5.1, approve revised job description for the care coordinator nurse at the Family and Community Engagement Center. I have removed that from the agenda after it was printed, so that will be removed and probably be put onto a later meeting. Moving on to 6.1, approve FY school budget. Approve FY24 school budget. I'll turn that over to Sarah.
Sure, thank you. So this evening, we're asking for the school committee's support in approving the FY24 school budget as presented at the last meeting, which was March 15th, which was the budget public hearing. There's no changes and no further input or feedback has come in from the committee or the public. So we are asking for your approval this evening as it was presented. And the motion is contained within your packet.
Okay, just before you make the motion, I just want to make it, I always do this, and I just want to make it again, just in case people are chiming into this. I just want to make it clear to the public that this has been a process that started back in September, October with the school committee, superintendent, assistant superintendent, all the folks that need to be involved in it. So I think we've probably spent, I just don't want people to think that we're literally going to pass a budget in 30 seconds. That's $85 million. That's a lot of money. And I don't want people to think that, like, we don't care or that we're not interested. We're just here to pass whatever. We've spent hours and hours and hours and hours going over this, refining it, asking questions, having private meetings with the superintendent, having private meetings with our finance gentlemen. It's just, I just want people to realize that this is the end of a long, I was going to call you Chris, but I figured it'd be more formal. So I just want people to realize that this is not something that's taken lightly. It's taxpayer dollars, and we take it extremely seriously. We all do, and that this is just the end of a long process that goes every year. So that's all I would say. Now I'll move on to the motion.
Move to adopt a total budget of $85,649,019 for the school department for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023, to be funded by an appropriation of $82,761,867, subject to change depending on the final state aid received by the town of Barnstable, and an expenditure not to exceed $2,087,152 for the circuit breaker revolving fund, an expenditure not to exceed $200,000 from the transportation fee revolving fund, and funds not to exceed $600,000 for the school choice tuition revolving fund.
I'll second that.
Having a motion second, I'm going to do this as a roll call vote. I'm not sure if we have to, but it's kind of being the cautious way. So roll call vote. Peter?
Yes.
Andre?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Chair is a yes, passes unanimously.
Mike, can I say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I just also want to remind the public that we've passed the budget. It is, the final budget needs to be passed by the town of Barnstable and the town council.
Right. Okay, so yeah, so now the process is that it goes now to the town council, goes to the town manager. I believe it goes to the town council, and that's who the final approval comes through.
May I chime in?
Yep.
Something? Yeah, it's going to the town council through the town manager from here. I would note that given some of the changes that came about as a result of the governor's budget and the fiscal forecast being different than the joint budget meeting in October, there's been more information shared with the town council, I think, earlier than in the past, including a snapshot from our presentation at the budget hearing, and by snapshot, I mean the video clip. Mr. Dwelly and I also presented the budget to the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee last week, and doing a lot to educate around the Student Opportunity Act. I will be attending the Town Council meeting tomorrow night to answer high-level questions about the school department budget, again, to kind of bring people along with some of the new information that we're getting from the state.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank you for kind of like making it. I think it's probably been a little bit more inclusion with town councilors and stuff like that. I know you've answered questions and stuff like that. And I thank you for kind of making it so it's hopefully it'll be more of a. It won't be as a surprise. It's kind of they've been kind of brought along in the process. So I thank you for doing that all along.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to move on to 6.2, adopt fee 24 fee schedule.
Great, thank you. So in your packet, and I think Chris is going to come up to answer any questions, in your packet is the proposed fee schedule for FY24. In general, we're not proposing any changes to the fees, but since the last meeting where we presented this and you had a discussion, we did have a recommendation from the athletic department to change and modify the cap of the athletic fees. Right now, the athletic fees are $150 per sport or a family cap of $500. The math in terms of kind of multiples isn't clean, and the suggestion is that we reduce the cap to $450 per family, or basically what would be the equivalent of 3 sports fees. It just makes it a lot more practical to apply. Right now, we cannot capture partial payments through our online system, and so there's some chasing of $50 payments with families. So that's a change that we're recommending. And then as you discussed last time, and we're responding to having more delineation of our fees related to athletics, where Unified is being added. We have a reduced fee proposed of $100 per athlete per season, given the shorter duration of those seasons.
Okay. Do we have any questions? No? Okay. Thank you for changing that sports fee, because having had 4 kids go through the high school, I've had multiple years, and I remember calling and being like, how do I pay $50? It doesn't let me do it. And sometimes I think I had to pay, I think we paid the $150 and then got $100 back, and then a couple times I had to bring a check in. So thank you for cleaning that up. It just makes it, I thank you as all the parents out there that are like, makes it easier that they don't have to send a check in for $50. So
it's pretty minimal in terms of the impact to the
okay.
revenue.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
Move to adopt fiscal year 24 fee schedule as presented in tonight's materials.
I have a motion. Can I get a second? Having a second and a motion. It's a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to 6.3, approve additional funds for portables at Hyannis West Elementary and Barnstable Community Innovation School. So, Mike and Chris, I see you both looking at each other. I don't know who's talking first, but I'll turn it over to you two. Or Sarah, is it going to you?
Maybe I'll start just the very highest of levels and then turn it over to them. This is an agenda item related to the 2 sets of portable units that have been planned for. This year has been a time of planning and setting the specifications, which I'm sure Mr. Labros can talk more about. We now have a bid to respond to with respect to getting the portables built and installed at Hyannis West and at the Barnstable Community Innovation School. It's been kind of a quick time frame here, and we appreciate your patience in terms of us having put the material into the packet today, but it's been a pretty quick turnaround from when the RFP went out and the bid came in to get you those materials. But in the packet are some of the site plans. There's sort of an estimate of costs, which they can run through, and our recommendation would be to support additional funds from the school savings account to support the portables, which really addresses some of our I would say some of our space needs. We don't have the final facilities conditions assessment report, but just from feedback from principals and teachers and community members, and we've been, and my predecessor had talked about how we use space a little differently. The enrollment has stabilized. We're actually up a little bit at our elementary schools, and we're feeling a space pinch, particularly at our elementaries and at our high school. So, this is definitely something that's needed to support teaching and learning. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Mike to talk a little bit further about it.
Welcome to both of you. So I'll let whoever wants to, it's your show, so.
Good evening. So previously we came and we were given an appreciation of $730,000 for year one of 4 classrooms, 5 trailers at each, or portables at each location, Hyannis West and Barnstable Community Innovation School. After a lot of effort and a long time coming, the site engineering, the civil engineering, electrical engineering finally got wrapped up, went to the estimator, and came back higher than anticipated. Thus, the reason we're here this evening for the additional costs. So the additional costs of $4,143,572,000. That is taking into account the $730,000 that was previously appropriated. Yes. It is, yes. Okay.
And can I chime in for a second, Mike? When it was originally proposed, the number was much lower. I think with inflationary pressures, supply chain issues, the RFP then went out at a higher number. And then from that RFP going out, we received a bid that kind of net of money that's already been appropriated yields that estimated $4.1 million number.
And just remember, what was the number before?
So the original estimate was 1.5 million.
1.5 to 4.1?
Correct.
And it's for the same exact thing as what we agreed. Nothing's changed.
Yes. The largest change has been bathrooms in the facilities, but
I'm sorry, what was that?
Bathrooms.
Oh, bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we need plumbing because of codes. We can't have them just be empty spaces. They can't be classroom spaces.
They have to have bathrooms.
You can't
And that
require the
means the
staff and
plumbing,
students
that
to go
means-
outside into the elements, come back in through the school to use the facilities. So they have to have
Bathrooms, all the plumbing and everything that goes with it and hooked up to the.
correct. So that adds the additional site work. The sewage, plumbing, and the electrical was needed anyway, but the additional site work is substantial.
And that's because we got to have the bathrooms.
Correct.
Okay.
It just seems exorbitant from, I know things are going up, but this doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
So I agree. Again, the estimate we thought was a lot closer to 1.5. Once the additional site work was added, which is the majority. If you look at document, I don't know which one it is. Sorry.
I can jump in. The site work is quoted at $1,865,250. So that is that additional site work to put in the bathrooms, which is required by code, is really a huge driver.
Did our original estimate have bathrooms?
No.
No, but we knew that we would need bathrooms.
No, there was a question if we were going to need bathrooms, wasn't it, originally?
Correct.
We didn't think we were going to need them, right?
Correct. And then after reviewing with the town and the town building department, we found out we would need bathrooms.
Yeah, Peter, if I can, if I may, I'm going to need a lot of clarification here in view of the fact that the cost has tripled. And so we had the discussion, I remember it. Mike, you were helpful in terms of understanding the difference between modulars and portables. Okay, so what we have at High West, which you can see in terms of the extension of space, those are modulars versus portables, so that they're two different things. And I do remember the conversation surrounding bathrooms and how they were going to be put into the building. But I'm going to need it just unpacked. We're all aware that there's a vast wastewater management project taking place in the town right now. So dealing with wastewater management. But that alone is doubling the cost. So we thought 1.5, but then the bathrooms alone are going to cost 1.4.
You're doubling it, really? 1.8, you said? Yeah, 1.8, so they're over, they went from 1.5.
Just for the bathrooms?
Went up 1.8 million just for the bathrooms.
So this...
But we can't, there's nothing we can do about it, correct? We need the bathrooms.
Thus far as...
Well, that's what the building department's saying.
Yeah.
They're the experts in it, so we...
Correct.
There's no, so you need the bathrooms.
Correct.
More or less at this point, we're past the, do we need them, do we not? We need them.
Correct.
That's kind of what the building department said, so
Yeah,
that's...
originally...
There was a question of maybe...
We were hoping we could get away with a variance, and the plumbing inspector and the building inspector were helpful. They actually threw this up to the state, and they reached out for some
Because they were the same way. They were kind of like, is there a way to...
Yeah.
And it just came back from the state saying, no, you need to have the bathrooms in it.
Correct. And if you remember in the past, we had the High West, the truss failure.
Yep.
At Hyannis West, and we had 2 trailers on location. We did not need bathrooms then. That was in 2018. They allowed us to put those in, use those as gymnasium classroom space without bathrooms.
And I remember you saying that's why you were like, we may be able to not need bathrooms because 3 years ago or 4 years, well, when we started this was probably 3 years ago or 4 years ago, we did the same thing and we didn't need bathrooms, so we're kind of hoping that this time we could do it again, but there's kind of a question.
Correct.
At that point, right? And I remember this, like Andre said, I remember that conversation, and it was like, okay, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, we didn't need them, so we're hoping we don't need them again. But on the other hand, I remember you saying that you needed to check with the town and the state to see if we did this time.
Correct. And yeah, the state, they don't give variances for that anymore.
So that's changed?
Fortunately, yeah.
Yeah, it's changed from 2018.
Yeah, so for me, that begs another fundamental question, in that, Mike, to your point, the modulars, that is an installation that is much more permanent.
Correct.
Versus a portable is a stopgap for a time. And then, so we're going to spend an additional $1.8 million for bathrooms, for portables that are a temporary solution to the overall, correct me if I'm wrong, that's, again, for me, back to your original, I'm in the community, so I'm familiar, and I think what's been done at Hyannis West with the modulars has been successful. They're newer, and so, but that distinction between a modular and a portable, and a modular is more permanent, portables for a time, but then we're spending $1.8 million for bathrooms in a facility that's temporary. That's difficult for me.
So I guess my question would be, what's the other, is there, so we all agree that there's space needs. We all agree that High West has their library and their cafeteria. We all agree that there are teachers teaching on the stage at High West. So, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but my question I would say to Sarah or to either of you guys or anybody here, that to me is unacceptable. That means something needs to happen. So is there any other option?
So I'll just jump in.
And I know that's a question that probably nobody wants to answer, but
I think we've been sort of grappling with this too, kind of seeing the price tag and the bid coming in. Walking through the schools, Hyannis West in particular, it really is a space crunch, and you can feel it's palpable in terms of the limited square footage, and the library, Title I, enrichment teachers all being teaching out of the cafeteria. BCIS similarly, we've got many people sharing classroom spaces and library services where offices are, and so I don't foresee. We're kind of stabilizing our enrollment in the district. I don't foresee that enrollment dropping. I continue to see a need for a variety of services so that it's not solely 24 students to one teacher, but we've got English ESL teachers, we have special educators, we have more expanding specialized programs, which keeps children in their district, but it is also a cost saver in terms of out-of-district tuition, but that comes with additional need for spaces, and we don't have adequate spaces for, in my opinion, for many of our specialized programs, and we need to be expanding our use there of space to provide those services. So I guess I just want to really emphasize and underscore the need, which is why the recommendation is coming to you, even though it's a really high and unexpected price tag. We did talk about the opportunity to extend the lease. So the price drops for subsequent years. So the intention was to go into it with 3 years in mind, but we could extend the lease. I foresee a need for space in the future, so that could be a possible solution and create some possibilities and opportunities for further discussion down the road. And then we did talk about whether or not we could purchase them after a lease period of time. When we are going to be looking at facilities planning long term, and I think that this there could be some, in terms of options and opportunities, there could be some longer term ones, and the initial cost is huge up front, but then decreases over subsequent years. Mike?
Yeah, to piggyback on that, I spoke with Amber Patterson, our Chief Procurement Officer, today. She's been helpful with getting this out to bid and helping us wrap our heads around what our options are. And we can, so as we approach the end of the 3-year life of this lease, if we wanted to, we could put out an RFP to purchase the current portables we would have. One would assume the company that we lease through would be the low bidder because they're already on site. So we would just purchase them at that point. I don't know what that cost would be. I don't have an estimate for that cost right now. However, that is an option. Then they would be here. They'd be ours for the lifespan of these types of buildings. Portables are about 15 to 25 years, depending on maintenance. So that's always an option. The lease extension, as you can see, year 2, $240,000. Year 3, $180,000. So the price drastically decreases as you get into the lease. It's the installation and the construction of the modulars or the portables that
is really, it's not even the modulars themselves probably really didn't go up very much. It's that beginning infrastructure that to set them up is what really tripled the price.
Correct. And so, Peter, I'm just trying to, because I understand it, we had sticker shock as well. And we bid this to get as many possible options and the best prices we could. We were accepting of used units up to 5 years old, which would have been, that's what we put right in our bid specs. I don't know, we're unsure if it's the timeline or the availability, but during the bid, the pre-bid walkthrough, none of the vendors had units in their inventory that would meet our timeline that were used. So these are actually brand new. That doesn't make the sticker price any lower.
No.
But
no.
you're getting a brand new building.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, it's a shock to say the least. I take sacred the taxpayers' money.
Oh, I agree.
We just approved a budget of $85 million. You know, in my own house, if I needed a bathroom, I do need another bathroom. And if I'm budgeting $100,000 for this new bathroom, and somebody comes up with $800,000 for it, I say no. And I truly also understand the need for the space. We have a dilemma here. I don't have the fix right here, right now, but I could not vote to approve this.
Go ahead, Kathy. You had your hand up.
I had two questions. So first question is, we keep talking about portable versus modular. Has anybody priced out the modulars, which would be permanent structures?
So portables and modulars, they're kind of an interchangeable phrase. When we say portables, these are modular units. As I said, they're the same. They're essentially, they're built to a spec, 12 by 64, 14, 15 by 60 by 56. The difference is modulars, as we know them in Barnstable, the Early Learning Center is on a footing. They're permanent. They're not movable. These, what we're looking for, what we're going to receive, they're not on a footing. They're coming in on a trailer. They get jacked up, put down on some cinder blocks, anchored for our wind loads. They're secured, and then they get a skirt around the edge to kind of dress them up so you can't see and get under them. That's the big difference. The structure itself, you're going to have a more robust HVAC system with modulars. You'll have a rooftop unit on the top, not a fan coil unit on the outside, just pumping air to one space. You'll typically have one or two for the whole unit on modular units, like the Early Learning Center. So that's the big difference is the modulars are permanent.
And that would be more expensive.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And then the second question, and you may have implied it, but is this tied into the town sewer or is it septic?
Hyannis West is sewer, so we would tie right into that system.
So what do we think? Do we want to, like, I guess?
So there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off, but
no, go ahead. I'm not sure what this. So I guess where do we go from here?
There are some other options.
Okay.
And those options would be, we could put this back on the street, rebid it. We could change the specs. We could change the scope of. Do we need, so if you recall at our previous meeting, maybe last June, you had said, give me an ABC, a small, medium, large. This is our large. Do both schools need 4 classrooms at 750 square feet apiece?
Probably not.
If I remember correctly, they didn't at the time. But
I'll be the one to say we don't.
Yeah, the concern was we don't want to come back in another 3 years and say we need
Remember,
2
we were
more
doing it
additional.
Kathy and I were the ones that were like, we were going to do it for growth. We were going to do it so that we weren't already outgrowing it when we did it at both schools. And both schools aren't in the same position. I mean, they're just not. And that's a good thing that we don't have 2 schools in the hardship, but we could probably do less at one. We could probably do less at the innovation school, in my opinion, and probably what we're talking, or maybe even a little less at even at High West. Like so if you remember it, we kind of did small, medium, and large, and we were like, let's grow for the future, so it kind of takes the heat off for the next 6 years or whatever it was going to be. You know what I mean? So yeah, go ahead.
But the problem with that is the bulk of the cost is not with the actual unit. The bulk of the cost is with the infrastructure surrounding the unit. And how would that change
if we made it smaller?
If you made it smaller, and is that, what are we coming back here in a couple of years
Probably.
and adding another unit?
So the bulk of the cost is site construction and installation, which is the sewage hookup, the plumbing, the water, the electrical. And also, that's the 1.8 in line item D. Line item A is the year one lease plus the modular buildings. The construction, as I said, these are new buildings, so they're charging us for the construction of the new buildings. So if you remove 2 classrooms at each location, that would essentially bring it down by 2/5, because there's 5 trailers at each location.
Oh, I'm not a math person.
I mean, that's just a guesstimate, just right here, right now. So
it's going to come down. But the problem is with that is we go back to, we get, like Kathy said, we're going to be back here in 2 years with the same headache. And I'm not saying, I'm honestly not saying do it or not. I don't know. Are we better off biting the bullet and kind of like it hurts? And I don't. And the other thing I would say is so I've talked to Sarah about this, and one of the things I wanted to look at was our savings account. And I grant you that is taxpayer dollars. I completely understand that. But I was like, I want to know what because it seemed like we have $11 million in our savings account. And that seemed really high to me. Like, I don't remember ever being that high. And that, if you look at one of our slides in our packet, one of the slides is I had her put the 10-year history of our savings account. And if you look, it's gone up dramatically with COVID, really. It's kind of gone up with COVID. It went from, if you look, most of the times we were around 4 or 5, 6, 3. So we're probably around like 4.5 million. And then all of a sudden with COVID, we went up to 9 million, and then we went up to 11 million. So, and I completely understand it's taxpayers' dollars, so I don't want to make it like, oh, we have the money, let's spend it. But to me, we're spending it on our kids. And I would certainly rather spend it on our kids at our 2 schools than I would other things. And I'm not saying that we should. Maybe we go back out to bid. I don't know. I honestly don't know what the answer is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I also noticed at 23, the savings back down to $4 million.
Well, that's if we spend this $4 million for this, it brings it back down.
Yeah, I understand it's for the kids, but yeah,
I know.
I understand all this. I truly do. But at what point, what if it was $10 million? At what point do we say no?
Right.
It's ridiculous price. I couldn't look a taxpayer in the eye and say, yeah, I voted for this tonight. Yeah, I did that. I thought it was reasonable. I can't do that.
Right.
Yeah, Mike, for me, just, I'm understanding the space constraints, the need, that operations, are only, can reach a certain limit, and then we have to expand. But I need to look at this further and look at what our options are based on, how the costs have accelerated. So it's those 2 things. Do we need to have a special meeting? Do we need to have a workshop, on this? It's a priority. So I'm willing to work on this. But from what it was to what it is now,
it's ridiculous.
I can't approve it.
Right.
But this needs to be addressed. So we need to work on this.
Good.
So I did walk through High West, and it really is a dire need over there. And I can agree with what Andre and Peter are saying, that it really is a hefty price tag, and it's very hard to vote, keeping that in mind. However, it's going to be equally difficult to look Kathy Amato in the eye and try and come up with a different solution. Maybe what I would propose would be to mull it over.
Yeah, I don't think we
maybe
should.
Think
I don't
about,
think we should vote tonight, because I think
right.
this is a way bigger thing to deal with.
And I was going to say, see if people reach out to us. Maybe you could see, I don't want to put more work on you, but maybe see if there's any kind of an alternative that somebody hasn't thought about. And what happens with the timeline, and how much time do we have to mull it over? Because I was hoping that this would be, is it unrealistic that it would be in place for the fall of '23?
So the current timeline should we have this signed within the 30 days and a contract in place, would have been substantial completion August 25th, 2023, with a final completion, meaning certificate of occupancy before the September 4th, sorry. 30 days, you said? Yes. That's typical for any contract with a bid. We can push that out, but it's typically 30 days to sign.
So whether people have to make the decision, do we want to give, because it's not, for me, it's not fair to say to them, okay, like, so do we want to put back out the contract, make it smaller? Do we want to put it back out and, well, really, that's our only option, I would guess, would be to put it out smaller? Do we want to get prices and put out an RFP for modulars? Like, I guess we need to give them guidance, being Sarah and Mike and Chris, as to what we want to have happen next. Because just doing nothing is just going to make the timeline even longer. So what do we want to do?
Did you have other options, Mike? You were starting with the smaller size, and I thought you had other possible ideas.
Yeah, I do have some. One would be, and these are shots in the dark, I have to check with the building department. What can we do to eliminate the need for the bathroom? Or what alternative bathroom solutions are there? Can we, if you're familiar with BWB and Hyannis West, those schools have a tunnel connecting them. Is there something we could do to connect these buildings so we can, you don't have to go out into the elements, you don't have to go outside? It's a stretch, but I need to check with the building department because they're ultimately the ones that need to sign off on that, as long as the fire, as well as the fire department.
Yes, and I would say, Sarah, for me, I'm seeing that, in 2018 or 19, we don't need to have bathrooms, and so we're good. What legislative change, what occurred in the landscape, to make this an absolute, bottom line necessity? And is there some, is there a way in terms of the legislation and the requirements that we can operate under the previous understanding? How did it change? Previous.
That I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
to
So what
that.
what I think we should do is I think we should just table this or postpone it, or I'll just take it off the agenda. I think we had the conversation. I'll just table it. I think you kind of like, I think Mike, because I don't want to put Mike on the spot either of saying, oh, I think this is it. And then he comes back and says, no, it isn't. And we're like, well, no, you said it was. Like, I just don't think that's fair either. So I think what we should do is table this. I think whether we have a special school committee meeting for it or whatever, if you could kind of do the homework, kind of like talk with Sarah, talk with me, kind of like figure out what other options are, whether we put it out for an RFP again and we make it smaller, or whether we could get, like, the bathrooms aren't necessary, whatever you could figure out, and then just let me know or let Sarah know, and we'll have another school committee meeting, and we can, I think also just, like, this is, like you said, I didn't even look at it, but it's 3 times as much, so we need, like, to figure this out. I don't want to wait till May, because, to be honest with you, these were supposed to, we were hoping to have these in this past year. So we're now a year past what I at least assumed we were going to do it. So I'm hoping, like, I want to keep this going too. It's kind of like the Coast Guard ROTC. You got to keep it going. So if you guys are willing to have a special school committee meeting, let's find out the information, and we'll come back and we'll have another school committee meeting. Does that kind of sound good to everybody?
That's fine.
Kathy?
What's the timeline from the time we approve, the school committee approves, and the contract gets signed, and it puts everything in place so that, should it be approved, that it's ready
Still
for
gonna
the
be.
school year? Is it an immediate thing, or is there still
A little bit of wiggle room.
approvals?
There's not a lot of wiggle room at this point.
Okay. So what we're going to be doing is delaying when it's going to be put in.
No, what I'm saying is, so you need, that proposal's good for 30 days. If you go out and you get another proposal, I would, when I'm thinking about the tabling, usually when you table to a specific date. So if we tabled it not to exceed a certain number of days, then how much time from the time school committee approves to the time, so if what do you have to do after approval? Is it immediately signed? It's immediately the wheels are in place? Or is there 2 weeks, 3 weeks, another month to do whatever has to happen after we sign?
So as soon as school committee approves it, typically the chair signs it, superintendent will sign it. It will go to our procurement office. And Wednesdays are our meetings. Usually by Friday, it will be circulating. And within that week, early the next week, we'll have a finalized contract, especially if we expedite it and ask the procurement office to help with that.
And what's the legal time frame to put another bid out? What's the minimum legal time frame if you needed to get?
Do you know that, James? Or do you? Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
So we can refuse this bid. We can deny it, and we can repost. We would have to you have to advertise a week before you bid, and we put advertisements out on Thursday. We post the bid the following Wednesday. So if we had this ready for tomorrow, we would be able to post next week for a minimum of 2 weeks. But typically on a project like this, we go 3 to 4. Since it's already been out for 3 weeks previously, and we would just be changing the scope slightly, probably not a lot to the site work, unless we can figure out a situation with the utilities. I'd still recommend 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Probably
And
3
how many
weeks.
bids were submitted?
Just one?
Just one.
Just one. So that's difficult. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to frame the tabling.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
what
just trying to figure
do,
out what.
Because my initial gut said
So-
not to exceed 20 days.
Do we need to? So you said we have to refuse this bid or deny it or whatever the proper terminology would be, but vote no. Do we have to do that prior to reposting an RFP? Or can we have them going simultaneously?
I don't think we
Chris?
should.
The town's not bound by anything at this
Okay,
point.
so we don't have to deal with this RFP before we put out another RFP for a smaller thing is what I'm kind of asking.
No.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. And then one last question, sorry. So equity versus equal. And I heard in one of the conversations, decrease at both sites. I think we need to be realistic, and I think we need to recognize the fact that the need at High West is such that I personally can't see decreasing a modular size at that site. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't visit BCIS, so I can't speak to that school. But I want to emphasize that equity versus equal doesn't mean if we take and decrease the size of one module unit at BCIS, we must decrease one modular
Oh, no,
unit
I agree with
at
you.
High West.
It's
Okay.
completely, I've been to both schools, and it's just not the same. It's just not, the need is more. I would say personally, if we were going to decrease it, it's how many modules per school? What was it? This a proposal?
Yeah, so 5 modulars, and there's 4 classroom spaces.
But 5 at each?
5 at each.
Okay,
4
so
classroom
I
spaces
would
at each.
think, being into both schools, I would say you would want to keep the 5 at High West and go down at BC. That's how I would say that we would decrease it, because I just don't think the need is quite as much. I mean, there is a need at the Innovation School, but I just don't think it's the same. That's my own personal opinion, having been into both buildings.
Can I just
Yeah, go
add
ahead.
something? I would really like to be sure ASAP to bring in the principals into
Yep.
the loop and walk the buildings with them.
Well, and that's why I think we should probably have a school committee meeting in a couple weeks that kind of gives all of you folks a chance to get all of the information. Because I also want to make an informed decision on how many, like from you, Sarah, how many classrooms we do need at each, you know what I mean? Because maybe we don't need all 5 at High West. Maybe we need only, I don't know, whatever the numbers are. So I would want a little bit of like, okay, this is like bare bones. This is what we need at both schools. And that's what I think we need to, like, that's where, does everybody kind of agree? Because I don't want us to just start cutting, saying, maybe we're going to cut 2 from each school, because that may not be what we need at each school. You know what I mean? So does everybody kind of...
And the other thing to take into consideration is not necessarily to decrease the size of the unit, because, if you have one fewer units, the installation and the infrastructure costs are reduced. But if you keep the same number of units and decrease the size of each unit, you still have that
Same
additional
price.
infrastructure. So you can't, you've got to look at it strategically. So then,
Yeah, does
What
anybody
I
else have
would-
anything else? I mean, does everybody kind of agree where we're at?
so I would put,
One sec. So just to finish this, so you're all set with probably having a school committee meeting in a couple weeks with a little bit more
yeah.
information and
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
different
we need
options?
to relook at it. Any options?
Okay.
Any options would be
Right.
better than this option.
all right.
Okay, Andre, you kind of the same?
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we're kind of all on the
and
same
it also
page.
gives the public time to give feedback. So I would move to table the approval of additional funds for portables at Hyannis West Elementary and Barnstable Community Innovation Skills for a time period not to exceed 25 days.
Having a motion?
I'll second that.
Having a motion seconded. Voice vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Okay, thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Chris, I think you're staying. So moving on to 6.4, approve FY23 grants, gifts, and donations. Do we have any? Chris, do you?
We do, yep, we've got quite a bit. There is a list of them that should be in your packet for this evening.
Okay, are there any
So-
questions?
Nope.
No? Okay,
Move to approve grants, gifts, and donations as outlined in the documents presented tonight.
Second.
have a motion seconded, voice vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to 6.5, approve accounts payable warrant FY23 warrant number 40. Can I get the motion?
I'll move to approve the accounts payable warrant number 40 in the amount of $540,810.52.
Having a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Having a motion seconded, voice vote.
Andre.
Peter read it and Andre seconded it. No, Peter read it and Andre, your ears are blocked because you're sick, so you can't hear anything. Jen's laughing down there. You three are kind of serious, but Jen's laughing. This is a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 3-1. Sorry, you messed me up. 3-1. Ayes have it. We are now, I'm going to remove, per our agenda, thank you, Chris. We had executive session scheduled due to changes that have happened. There is no need for executive session, so I am removing executive session.
Move to adjourn.
And yeah, can I get a motion to adjourn? Having a motion to adjourn, can I get a second?
Second.
This is a roll call vote. Peter?
Yes.
Andre?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Chair is a yes, passes unanimously. Thank you, and have a good night.